That was one rough encounter between a Dutch YPR-765 and an anti-tank mine on the Russian-Ukrainian front. The vehicle burned out completely, but the crew made it out alive. Another hit APC got a bit luckier. A tank managed to tow it off the battlefield. So, is the armor really that ineffective? Not quite as bad as it looks. It actually holds up against an ATGM hit. That's my commander's seat right there. The missile hit it directly, and nothing. We evacuated. Everyone made it. They did finish it off afterwards, sure, but it held. So, what's the final verdict on the YPR-765? More pros or cons? Ukrainian soldiers tell the full truth about this Western APC. You could call the YPR-765 the Dutch cousin of the M113. They look alike, and they play a similar role on the battlefield. Back in the mid-1970s, the Royal Netherlands Army was looking to replace its aging French AMX VCIs with something more effective. That's when Dutch designers took a hard look at the upgraded version of the American Armored Infantry Fighting Vehicle, made a few tweaks, and thus, the YPR-765 was born. It proved so popular that by the 1990s, the Army had around 2,140 of them in service. Smash that like button to help more people see this video. Today, there are 17 different variants of the vehicle, used for troop transport, fire support, and medical evacuation. On paper, it sounds like a solid machine. But what about real combat? In the Russia-Ukraine war, the YPR-765 was sent straight into hell. Crews fought in the Battle of Bakhmut and took part in Ukraine's southern counteroffensive. And soldier opinions are divided. This soldier, for example, had trouble navigating rough terrain without getting bogged down. There's an automatic gearbox for switching drive modes. In heavy mud, it can't gain speed. It just doesn't shift, stays stuck in first gear. The engine's maxed out, it overheats, and you're crawling at like 5 to 10 miles an hour. With something like a BMP, it's got a manual gearbox, so you can power through in second or third. Here, it's out of your hands. Sounds pretty disappointing. Especially since the YPR-765 was built to operate in environments full of water hazards and swampy terrain. The designers expected it to ford rivers and float like a cork. That's why the vehicle's front has a wave-cutting structure installed. There's extra armor bolted on top. Between the layers, there's polyurethane foam that helps it float. In the front, there's what we call a float. It breaks the waves. That's what lets it swim. And because of the extra armor, it's about 3 tons heavier than the standard M113. Another cool detail for tough terrain missions is actually built into the body. If the troops are covered in mud, they can easily slip off and fall while riding on the outside. To prevent accidents, the designers added a special coating on the metal. Thanks to that, muddy boots don't slide off the armor like it's an ice rink. It's made specifically for areas with lots of water and swampy ground. When the ramp drops, soldiers go in and out with wet, muddy feet. Armor is super slippery. That's why it's coated with a texture, like Gravitex, so it's not slick. You'll find the same kind of anti-slip coating on Germany's Marder IFV. We've done a full video on that one too. Check the link in the top right corner. Now, back in older conflicts where artillery was the biggest threat, the fact that the YPR struggles to pick up speed in mud might have been forgivable. But the Russian-Ukrainian front is a different beast. Dozens of recon drones buzz overhead, scanning for targets to pass to FPV operators or kamikaze drones. And if you're crawling along at 10 miles an hour, your chances of dodging anything are next to zero. We have tons of contact. Close combat happens. But more often, it's remote warfare. Drones, artillery, grads. But honestly, artillery's not as dangerous as drones. That's what really limits this vehicle. You can't get closer than 1.5 kilometers. That's already pushing it. The troops have to walk the rest. Even with electronic warfare systems on board, there's no 100% guarantee you'll survive. The Russians have the numbers advantage in every type of munition, so they're not shy about using them. If they spot a YPR, they'll happily launch 40 BM-21 Grad rockets at its location. Sure, BM-21s aren't as accurate as HIMARS, but let's be honest, no one wants to test their armor while standing under a rocket shower. Everything has to be lightning fast. Sometimes, during an operation, we had 11 runs in just a day and a half for the wounded and the dead. And only one vehicle was doing all the work. The Russians hated that. They were ready to hit us with grads or anything they had just to stop us. They keep trying to take us out, but they can't. Another major threat to the YPR? Chaotic minefields scattered across roads and open terrain. About 23% of Ukraine is now mined. What's worse, in fear of a Ukrainian breakthrough, the Russians have blanketed the south with anti-tank and anti-personnel mines, and didn't even bother marking them on maps. That means every ride in an armored vehicle could be your last. To avoid casualties, a local guide rides with the crew, someone who knows which paths are still safe. This seat's usually for the guide. You're driving to a spot you haven't been in a while, and here, roads can change in a matter of days. One section gets remined, another gets blown up or burned down. The whole landscape can shift. So even if you were there a month ago, that road might now be a trap. A guide joins you, someone who's fighting in these very trenches and knows the current terrain. And don't forget, subscribing to this channel helps more people see this story. The YouTube algorithm loves that stuff. Now picture this. You're driving along a road that could blow your tank sky high at any moment. Enemy FPV drones are circling overhead. Shells are exploding all around. Making it back alive from that kind of hell sounds like something only a superhero could pull off. But this crew fought in Bakhmut and lived to tell the tale. We were retaking positions and dropping off infantry. Everyone was involved. At that point, I don't think any vehicles had been hit. We rolled in, got the job done, and rolled out. But their luck ran out later. While evacuating fellow soldiers under fire, their YPR was rocked like a boat in a storm. The shockwaves slammed the vehicle, but the armor held. Despite serious damage, the crew managed to survive and return. There was one time I thought, this is it. But thanks to this vehicle, its armor really held up. The back doors were blown apart, but the whole crew and the lightly wounded guys we were evacuating all survived. One of the golden rules in war: if you want to live, suppress the enemy so they can't shoot back. Some versions of the YPR-765 are built for just that. You can mount a machine gun or a grenade launcher. And let's be honest, it feels a lot better knowing you can fire back instead of just soaking up hits. Lobbing grenades over enemy trenches is a great way to kill their morale and keep them from lifting their heads to aim that RPG or ATGM at you. This one's equipped with an MK-19 and a fully automated weapon station. Inside, there's a screen with a targeting system, rangefinder, and night vision. You can fire both day and night, and the turret rotates a full 360 degrees. Thanks to its advanced electronics, the YPR-765 can open fire around the clock. The thermal imaging sight helps spot and lock onto enemy targets, making every shot count. That's crucial in modern combat. No wasting grenades guessing where infantry might be hiding. The gunner follows one rule: see the target, eliminate it. These are 40mm live grenades. They're loaded into this box, then fed into the launcher. You can load them manually or automatically from inside. Firing can be done in bursts, single shots, or manually, right from the monitor module. Another major advantage of the YPR-765, the gunner doesn't have to stick his head out of the hatch like in the old days. With FPV drones turning every exposed crew member into a moving target, that's basically a death sentence. But the Dutch beast gets around that. All firing is remote controlled from inside using a joystick and display. It feels like playing a video game, except there's no respawning, and you've got one shot to get it right. This is the monitor where we do the actual aiming. The joystick doesn't move. It's fixed. You control everything using buttons right on it. Despite the risks and stress of operating the YPR-765, Ukrainian crews hold the line with grit and even some humor. We're pretty sure this soldier lives by one motto: see the target, ignore everything else. And something tells us anyone who ends up in the sights of his grenade launcher won't forget that moment, if they survive. No matter what's going on, you've got to focus on what's in front of you. Doesn't matter if it's shooting or shaking, you aim and do your job. Like we say, you gotta rain it down. Rain it so hard they can't lift their heads. In Ukraine, YPR-765s are pushed to their absolute limits. One machine, like the one in our story, might make 11 combat runs in a single day. And its armor is constantly tested by the full arsenal of modern Russian weapons. But there's another twist: the troop capacity. In Western armies, the YPR-765 is rated for 7 soldiers. In Ukraine, as many as you can squeeze in. We loaded up to 8 people, honestly. It's designed for 7, not counting the crew. Just the dismounts. But 8 fit just fine. There was even a case where we packed in 11. We were doing an evacuation and crammed in 11 wounded. Ukrainian troops used to rely solely on Soviet-era vehicles. But today, NATO armor fills the ranks. The pace of combat leaves little time to train on new gear. But fortunately, the YPR-765 turned out to be easy to pick up. That gave crews a head start, letting them roll out on missions without delay. I trained on BMP-1s and BMP-2s, but when they handed our company a YPR, I just got in and drove off. No problem. On the Ukrainian front lines, the YPR-765 has proven itself. Solid armor, but also some real drawbacks, especially with its automatic transmission. Still, when resources are tight, like they are for Ukrainians, this kind of armored vehicle is far from useless. Got an idea for our next Weapons of Victory episode? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'll pick from the top suggestions.